Welcome to the Regent Park Film Festival Showcase Series. I'm your host, Judy Pham. This show is all about the love of film, talking to filmmakers and festival programmers about the upcoming 15th annual Regent Park Film Festival, which is happening November 15th to 18th. Today we have Amanda and Tajvin. They are writers and actors from the Regent Park Project, which is funded by Kickstart Arts, a nonprofit that connects artists with professionals to talk about stories that are of interest to the community. So ladies, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So for the first season, some of the stories revolve around two girls that are talking and a young man who's confronted by the police and two girls who argue about faith. So why do you think these are stories that speak on Regent Park?
Well, Regent Park is a very diverse community, but it also deals with many cultural issues and issues with the police that is important to address upon, just like you see in the second episode with the police and the boy. These are very common stereotypes that we all have heard about, and it's very important to break down these barriers. As well as in the third one, there's a lot of faith issues, like discussion about faith and discussion about like the different perspectives from the two sisters, and these are very commonly known within the community of Regent Park, which is why it makes such a big difference of why we need to talk about this and address these issues.
Mm-hmm. I would add to that based on what Tajvin's saying, in the story that you just saw were two sisters, and there's actually a pretty significant age difference, which is why we have a different understanding of how to respond to police officers. And so we're talking about these differences in a way that you would only really see inside the family home, in a kitchen, in an intimate space. And I feel like a lot of the time when we have these conversations, it's more, about how it is in the community at large, but not necessarily the one-on-one relationships within a family. And so it's a really, I think, a beautiful way that these stories that we're showing, where you actually get a sense of what that person's motivations are, and what's at stake for them beyond what other people are expecting from them in the community, but what's at stake for them within their family.
Mm-hmm. So given those themes, there's like the clash between culture, faith, and stuff. What are other themes that you considered exploring that you didn't touch upon for season one?
We touched upon quite a bit in season one, just to do with culture clash. But one thing that I think we're starting to talk about after we screened this was, there was. I think you'll see in one episode, I have a crush on another character, and I think that talking about, dating and relationships comes up in the first season, but exploring that in a little bit more depth, especially between different cultures, is something that we could explore more. I don't know, Tajvin, if you want to.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. Like, that was one of the things that we didn't really focus on, was getting into relationships, but it was more about, the sisters and the friends, but we haven't actually touched upon being in an intimate relationship with a partner. So I think that's something we're going to focus on more for season 2. We have been discussing that just briefly, but that's a secret.
So like interracial relationships?
Yeah, which comes up in season 1 quite a bit, but I think taking it that step further. The other thing that we were talking about in season 1 was one of the characters is actually interested in pursuing the arts. And so you get a glimpse of that, but I think we would both like to see that evolve a little bit more, because that's something that all of us who are part of this project are interested in doing, and the barriers that we face doing that can be pretty difficult. And so seeing how a close-knit community can support the growth of a young person wanting to pursue the arts is another thing that I think we've been talking a lot about.
So
no spoiler alerts.
No. So the project was funded by Kickstart Arts. So how did you two get into the program? What drew you to it?
For me, it was the director, Sheena Robertson. I've known her for about 4 to 5 years now, and I worked with her on smaller projects earlier, and then when she began running this class for the filmmaking, I was very interested, because it's something that I never thought that I could do for myself. And it was just such a great experience, and I don't think I'm ever going to leave. And like, she has just made it such an amazing course for us to do, and we've been learning so much that it's really made an impact on my life. And like, I don't know what I would do without it at this point.
Yeah, I would echo what Tajvin's saying. So I had worked previously with Sheena Robertson, who is the artistic director for Kickstart Arts, and I'd shown interest in wanting to act and be involved in filmmaking in a more creative way for a while, but was far too afraid. And Sheena had been coaxing me for at least a year before I finally got up the courage to do it. And I think it's interesting. So Kickstart Arts is this wonderful organization that works with young people from Regent Park and beyond, but to do these really interesting collaborative projects. And there are all these really great mentors who are part of Kickstart Arts, which makes it feel like a really safe way to take a risk. And so to what Tajvin was saying, it sucks you into this family. So we work with Sheena, we work with Wendy Anderson, and then a slew of other really amazing professional artists, but it goes beyond just being this training opportunity, and it goes beyond being, a course in filmmaking or acting, and it becomes a place where all of us, all the youth who are involved, have a vested interest in each other's lives. And so we meet once a week, and we've seen each other over the course of 3 years grow in so many different directions, and I think it's kind of like a sounding board for me now, where I feel like I can talk about maybe an opportunity that I want to go for, but I'm too afraid to do. And
we'll start encouraging her.
Yeah.
And it's just become like a family right now. Like, everyone's comfortable with everyone. It keeps growing, which is a really good thing, because we're getting a lot more younger people involved from the community and beyond. But it's just becoming more like a family right now.
Mm-hmm.
So the project is, it's like a collaborative project, and there's a lot of writers. There's collaboration when it comes to writing these shows.
Correct.
And you also play the role of writer and actor. So how does that affect you? Was there anything daunting about that, like, going on camera and stuff?
I would say absolutely. So I think that's why this project has been so interesting, is that we started off doing improvisation and sharing stories. So for all the participants in the program, it's our stories that went into the web series that you see. And so it took a while for us to build that trust and respect to want to even tell the stories that we were eventually going to write. And then as we were telling the stories, we realized that we all have a different opinion about how certain characters should respond in situations. And since it's based off of our lived experience, it's really vulnerable. So the process of writing is not that you're not writing about something that you have no idea about. You're writing about something that has either happened to you or has happened to someone that you've become close to in the group. Mm-hmm. And so I think moments of friction actually were really interesting and were the most valuable part of this experience with the writing piece, where we would have lengthy discussions about what we actually thought should be, the story. And we got to play with it quite a bit by doing all this improvisation. So we would play with it, then we would see the script, and then we would act it out again, realize that some of the words didn't roll off so well once they'd been on paper. We would go back and things would get changed, but really it's the content through writing that I think, all of our perspectives shifted a little bit. And then with the acting, I don't know, Tajvin, if you felt this, but I was pretty afraid at first because we had been doing a lot of the acting in a really safe, small environment. And when we did showcase it, the few times that we did showcase the first sets of the story, we did it at Daniel Spectrum, and we did it in front of a live audience. And so it felt like theater, which was great because a lot of us are interested in theater as well. But shifting that to on camera was new for a lot of us and completely different experience, and absolutely wonderful in figuring out how to convey emotion in a box and how to, we had all these dreams about what we wanted the story to be, and then having to problem solve getting them done, in a smaller space or with limited, resources. And so I think the exercise of writing and acting worked really well hand in hand, because we got to, being a part of the whole process, we got to really make good decisions. Yeah.
And to add on to that, we also got to figure out what we like to do. Like, some of us were more into the acting and some of us were more into first AD and directing. So it really gave us the opportunity to figure out where we were comfortable. For the most part, everyone was able to act and step out of their comfort zone a little bit, which made, like, it just gave everyone that experience and that confidence.
Yeah, Tajvin's an exceptional director.
Thank you.
So what have you learned about storytelling through this project?
Well, for me personally, it was just being able to trust strangers, who is now like my second family. I've learned that there's so much more to than just what a person will like give off, and then so much more to their story. Like, you can just learn so much about a person from their stories and their experiences, and there's always like room to explore. Like, I don't know how to like put it into words right now. It's just there's always
more to the story.
yeah. Always like there's never, it's never lacking anything. You can always move forward with it.
One thing I thought that I guess I didn't really realize beforehand, because when I've told stories in the past, it's been from my perspective, and this was a moment where all of a sudden, as I was saying before, all of our input went into telling the stories. And so a character that, like, there might be decisions that a character is making that you personally don't agree with. And so we had these incredible discussions that were really hard sometimes, where, you know, I think sometimes we think about the power of storytelling being just for the person receiving or listening to the story, but I thought it was so interesting as storytellers, how difficult it is to try and, you know, convey a message, but then also realize that these are just people too. And so you can't get all your points across, and we're not all going to agree. And there's so much more to these characters that we have to eventually find out about in the next season. So keep it simple. And I think keeping it simple was the hardest thing to figure out.
Yeah.
And also, when we did show it, I don't know, Tajvin, if you experienced this, it was so interesting to hear the questions that people asked after the first time they saw it. And we knew what we had put out there, but then
we didn't know what to expect from
How they would perceive it and stuff, and what it would invoke in them and stuff.
And really, like, so there's 8 episodes in the season, in season 1 of the web series, and the characters come up in all of the episodes. So they're in the background, or they're, you know, they're in the lives of all of the story. Sorry, their lives are a part of the story, but the episodes will focus on maybe 1 or 2 characters.
Right.
So what's really interesting with that is because the worlds are so linked up, we all had an opportunity to know, okay, in the scene where Tajvin and I are hashing out our response to the police scene, there's 4 other characters who are involved who come up later on, but we got to see the motivation all the way through. And I think that was really, really cool to be a part of, but also really challenging.
Yeah, just making sure that all the stories are interconnected was a little bit of a challenge for us, but we were able to make it through and make sure that the stories that mattered the most to us, we were able to present those.
And there were definitely moments that we could not have conveyed in any other medium. Like the fact that all of these stories are, it's, you know, a web series and it's film, that you could see things happening in the background, that you could see a facial expression. I think we all talk about this one moment where the character who's being, I guess, harassed by the police officer, he pushes his glasses up like this, and it's this really cool moment that speaks so much about the character.
Right.
And it's just a small moment, and the actor, he's the one who made that choice. And we all, you know, we didn't talk about it. We all saw it at the end, and we're like, oh yeah, that's.
So it's just the little things that make the picture even better.
Thank you so much, ladies. You did a great job. I really appreciate you coming in today.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. We're really excited about it. Check out the whole web series when it is available. But yeah.
Great. Thank you so much. So thanks for tuning in. And remember, the 15th Annual Regent Park Film Festival is happening November 15th to 18th, and all admission is free. So if you want more information, please go to their website, regentparkfilmfestival.com.